This is 1A. I'm Jenn White. When you're young and finding your way in the world, it's important to have people you look up to, whether that's a teacher, family member, or someone else who stepped up in your life.
My name is Jack, and I'm from Missouri, and one of the most influential people in my life was my football and wrestling coach. I didn't have a father figure for many years and did everything that a father would do and ensured that I always had food.
That would be my Aunt Katie. She was a dispatcher in a police department and moved all the way to captain. Captain Katie Roberts was my hero and passed away a couple of years ago, but she was amazing all the way to the end.
She was a guidance counselor back in the day, and she definitely influenced my life for the better in many, many ways. Not just me, but a lot of other kids. But the thing is, I think she thought that I needed more help than a lot of other kids did, and I did.
Thanks for those messages. These types of role models are the focus of a new season from the PBS News Student Reporting Labs podcast, On Our Minds. The show is about what it's like to be a teenager, and it's produced by teens across the country. This season, students wanted to answer the question, who inspires you? They interviewed the people they look up to for the podcast, and some of those student producers are with us today, starting with Ava Gilberg Stroud. She's a senior from Black River Falls in Wisconsin and joins us now. Ava, welcome to the program.
Hi.
Also with us is Bridget Gansky, the lead podcast producer at PBS News Student Reporting Labs. Bridget, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And we want to hear from you. Tell us about the person who shaped who you are today. Was it a teacher, coach, friend, a parent, or just someone you looked up to? Maybe you have someone in your life who inspires you today. Tell us about them. Email us at 1a@wamu.org. Ava, you chose your dad as the person who inspires you. He's a drummer and talked about building his career. Let's listen.
Music is a very, very tough career to get into. And a lot of musicians are very, very skeptical about asking when their kids say they want to be music. You're like, man, like you know what it was like for me, and you still want to do this. That's cool. And realize that, it's not easy. Even as a 44-year-old man, crazy to say that, by the way.
My dad, Keo Stroud, is a drummer based in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's safe to say he's made his dream come true.
Ava, why did you choose your dad as the person who inspires you?
Well, without my dad, I don't think I would be the person I am today. We're both obviously very into music, and music has been like my entire life. Just like since I was 5, my dad got me like a little pink drum set, and I would wail on it like all day long trying to be like him. And then obviously his entire side of the family is way into music, and obviously my mom's side of the family is way into music. So everything just kind of came together, and it really like shaped who I was today. And I don't really get to see him very often because we're very, very far apart. I'm in Wisconsin and he's in Tennessee. So I really, really wanted to honor my dad because I don't think I really do it enough. And I think he's pretty cool. So
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to have a conversation with a parent, and it's another thing to sit down and interview them. I've had the chance to interview my parents before, and I learned all kinds of things about them that I didn't know. What was that like, interviewing your dad and figuring out which questions you wanted to ask him?
it was really, really weird. Just like, I've really only heard my dad's story in little snippets from like his family and him just like talking about like his little side quests. That's the best way I can really say it, because he's had so many experiences. And honestly, I felt really weird just like asking him all these questions. And as I was asking them, I was like, why haven't I asked this before? This is literally what I want to go into. I should probably know how it was for my dad. So obviously the audio story is only about like 5 minutes long. And what you don't really hear is the rest of that close to an hour conversation that I just had talking to my dad. And he's told a story plenty of times, but I don't think before this he's ever actually told me. So I hope it kind of hits different.
Yeah, hold on to that audio. Hold on to it. You'll want to listen back to it, I think, at different periods of your life. Let's listen to another clip from that conversation. Your dad talks about how his father was the one who inspired his interest in music.
My dad played in this top 40 band called the Common People Band, and those guys were very, very nice and very supportive of my music stuff. When I was about, I don't know, 13 or so, I realized that I wanted to spend more time with my dad, and the best way to spend time with my dad, the best time that we could do is in the band. The incentive to get good was I wanted to be good enough to play drum set in that band so I could spend more time with my dad. That was the whole thing that did it.
It was then that I realized that me and my dad aren't that different. I started playing music because I wanted to be close to him.
The On Our Minds podcast started during the pandemic to focus on teen mental health. Bridget, why did the students want to focus on inspirational figures for this season?
Yeah, so each season we have been focused on teen mental health and wellness. The last fall we had a special season about the election and the youth vote. This season we wanted, we have a group of a student advisory team, a group of teenagers that advise us on all the projects we do because we really want our work to relate to young people and provide journalism and reporting that they care about. And they really told us that what they wanted to work on and produce were more upbeat stories, positive stories, inspirational stories. And so when we were thinking about what our theme should be for this season of our podcast, choosing something like Who Inspires You just kind of became the theme. And I think that it really has worked well for our students. We work with students all over the country, and it allows all of our student journalists like Ava to choose someone in their lives that really means something to them and then create an audio story that is deeply personal and meaningful.
Well, many of you wanted to share stories about who you find inspiration in, especially family members.
My name is Michelle Shearhart, and I'm calling from Royal Oak, Michigan. The person I most admired when I was growing up is my sister Kathy. She's 8 years older than me. She was always very supportive and positive. When I was 10 years old, I started playing the clarinet, and she thought that was really cool. Well, I wanted to be as cool as she thought I was, so I worked very hard at it, and I became a professional clarinetist. She's still the person I admire most as an adult because she is an environmentalist. She's written children's books. She became a master gardener after she retired from teaching social studies. And I want to be just like her when I grow up.
Thanks for leaving that message. We'd love to hear from you, too. Who helped shape you as a young person or continues to inspire you today? Email us at 1a@wamu.org. Ava, what was your biggest takeaway from interviewing your father?
I need to ask more questions, just in general, because as a person, I don't think I'm curious enough. And looking back on it, I think I need to be a little more nosy about people's lives. Obviously not too much, but it's cool to hear other people's experiences and stories, and I love listening to them. So it's really, really cool to hear other people's experiences and opinions.
Yeah. Bridget, how does that align with the goals PBS News Student Reporting Labs has for the young people involved?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. We are teaching them journalism skills, but really these are life skills, how to ask questions, how to interview, how to put together a story, skills that students can use no matter what career or profession they go into. So we really believe that what we're doing is creating or helping create the next generation of storytellers and help them kind of in their lives and all that they want to do.
Well, Ava, music has been a part of your life since you were very young. You talked about that little pink drum set your father got for you. And you're pursuing a career on stage similar to your father. So what's next for you?
Well, after graduation in the fall, I'll be attending Kennesaw State University as a theater and performance major. And hopefully it all goes according to plan.
What is that plan?
Crossed.
What's that plan?
I'm really, really hoping that I get to be able to perform for people, whether like on stage or through instruments. I don't really care as long as I'm like performing. It's my entire life.
Well, that's Ava Gilberg Stroud. She's a senior from Black River Falls in Wisconsin. Ava, thanks so much for speaking with us, and we'll hear more from you a little later in the hour.
Sweet, thank you.
Staying with us is Bridget Gansky, the lead podcast producer at PBS News Student Reporting Labs, and you're sharing so many stories with us. A member of our text club writes, "My father inspires me. He speaks 8 languages, and we traveled with the military when I was growing up. He was an aerospace engineer and an undersea engineer. He built satellites and underwater vehicles that went deeper than any other had gone before." And another of you shared this. "I know this is cliche, but mine is my mother. She was of the generation of women who started working full-time in the 1960s and was still expected to do everything as housewives and mothers. The most essential lesson she taught me was to treat each and every person with respect. I miss her every single day, but carry her many life lessons with me and try to pass them on to my grandchildren." Coming up, we hear from a student who found inspiration in his school principal. That's just ahead. This is 1A from WAMU and NPR. This is 1A. I'm Jenn White. Today we're talking about the people in our lives who inspire us. It's the theme of the newest season of the PBS News Student Reporting Labs podcast, On Our Minds. The show is about being a teenager, and it's produced by teens across the country. We're here with Bridget Gansky, the youth media producer at PBS News Student Reporting Labs. And now let's hear from another student who interviewed someone who inspires them. Jay Tamarisa is a sophomore from Southlake, Texas, and he interviewed his principal. Jay, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Well, let's start by listening to a clip from the podcast.
Wow. That's Mr. Ryan Wilson. He's the principal at my school, Carroll High School in Southlake, Texas. He's funny, strong, disciplined, and warm at all the same time. His wisdom and ability to connect with students and parents make him a leader we all admire. So, Mr. Wilson, I was wondering what drives your passion for education and for supporting students every single day?
Jay, kids drive my passion. There's
Mhm.
something about interacting with kids that gives me a sense of joy and energy.
So, Jay, why did you choose Principal Wilson as the person who inspires you?
Thank you so much for that question. I think that I specifically chose Mr. Wilson for my guest speaker because of his kindness and how he treats every student equally. And I really think that every student in my school really feels special when he's around. He makes sure to notice small features of students, which really resonates with me. And he's a great leader that I admire.
Jay, tell us a little bit more about your school.
So I go to Carroll High School in Southlake, Texas, and I originally met Mr. Wilson back at the old intermediate school when I just moved from Ohio. And I just really think that he was like the one leader that stepped up when I had no idea, when I had no friends, and when I just like had no one to talk to. He was the leader that stepped up, and he was the one that really helped me.
What does it mean to have not just people your age who you can talk to, develop relationships with, but to have an adult who you trust and who you can turn to when you have issues of concern?
I really think that having an adult that I can talk to when I have issues and concern really means the world to me. I think that us, when we like students talk to each other, maybe sometimes it's a joke and sometimes we don't really understand what each other are going through. But an adult who has had lived experience has numerous like adversities that they have overcame, and just talking to these types of people just really brighten your day, and it just pushes you to even be a better person.
How did you get involved with the Student Reporting Labs?
So I originally got involved with the PBS Student Reporting Labs program when I wanted an outlet in which I could promote Mr. Wilson and talk about my experiences with him. And after just going on Google and just searching over and over again for great programs, I finally found the PBS Student Reporting Labs program. And I applied around January, and I must say, like, the application process is really well. I got the email back in just 2 weeks, and just doing the production was just such a smooth process. I had no issues. All the like the teachers were excellent, and I really thought it was like an excellent experience overall.
So I just want to make sure I understand. You wanted to tell the world about Principal Wilson. And so you found a program that allowed you to do that. Why? I mean, it's one thing to have the relationship and to admire the person, but why did you think we needed to know about him?
The truth is that Mr. Wilson truly changed my life, and I wanted to share my experience to everybody. I want them to know how great of a teacher Mr. Wilson was, how he just outside of school just loved everybody, and he just was the person that I could use the PBS Student Reporting Labs program to get the word out, to let people know that I'm proud this is my high school principal, and I'm proud that I got to know Mr. Wilson.
Bridget, in Jay's case, he found the program because he had a story to tell about Principal Wilson. But how do students typically come into the reporting labs?
Yeah, we have a number of different entry points for students. In some cases, like Jay, students find us directly, maybe through Instagram, through our social channels, or if they're just looking for journalism resources. But oftentimes it's through their teacher. For instance, Ava's teacher at Black River Falls High School uses our curriculum, our prompts and lessons in her classroom. So a teacher might refer the student or say, hey, check out Student Reporting Labs resources, or they have an opportunity, I think you should apply. So it's either usually a mix of students finding us on their own or through their teacher at their school.
Well, we heard from many of you who found inspiration from teachers.
Hi, I would like to shout out to two teachers who had great influence on me. One was back in high school. I took French from her, and she taught us to be fearless, to not worry about making mistakes, and to just speak the French that we were learning, and it would get us around the world, which it did. The second person I would like to thank is my sign language teacher in my interpreter training program, who also taught me the way I needed to learn. Somehow, you find the right teachers who teach you the way your brain can take it in. So I'd like to thank Mrs. Gloria Auer from Abington, Pennsylvania, and Rebecca Robinson from Portland, Oregon, for giving me two beautiful language inputs that have taken me far in my life, and I will forever be grateful to them both.
Thanks for that message. A member of our text club writes, my high school history teacher inspired me to trust and celebrate how smart I was. As a Vietnam veteran, he also led by example, showing how a person can turn personal pain into meaningful public service. He was dedicated to teaching tolerance and cultural awareness. In fact, when I decided on teaching as a career, I wrote a letter thanking him. And Ann in Nevada writes, I was a runaway as a teen. I left home at 16, married my boyfriend, and my parents disowned me for a long while. A retired teacher in the apartment next door noticed me hanging up baby clothes and realized I was not in school. Mrs. Redfield decided to tutor me every day that we could. She told me I was incredibly bright and encouraged me to get my GED and go to school. Keep sharing your stories with us. Who inspired you as a young person? Email us at 1a@wamu.org. Jay, what were your key takeaways in your conversation with your principal?
Some key takeaways from my conversation with Mr. Wilson was to always be kind to everybody and to just look at everyone through the same lens. And I feel like and when you initially meet people, something I learned from Mr. Wilson's interview is to always have a good first impression with them. Just be kind to them, just be genuine, and in the long term, they'll always remember your name and always remember you as someone who's kind. And that's something that Mr. Wilson's interview really made me reflect upon.
And what was it like putting the story together from the interview process all the way to audio production?
So putting the entire story together was surprisingly an easy process thanks to how great the people are at the PBS Student Reporting Labs program. The process was extremely smooth going. So first I just conducted the interview one day after school, and the next step was to send these clips to Miss Gansk, and she gave me feedback on, hey, maybe the audio level from this segment is too high, or maybe it's too low here. So we just did a few back and forths, and that's how we got the audio segments. And then I used an editing app to put all the segments together, and I added even a bit of Mr. Wilson greeting students in the hallway, just so spice up the entire podcast. So it was really easy.
Bridget, the students who are involved in the reporting lab, are they coming to you with different degrees of experience in producing audio? And how do you navigate that? Because it sounds like a lot of the work is happening via email and maybe some Zoom meetings, that kind of thing.
Yes, for sure. Students come with all different degrees of experience. Maybe they've never made any kind of story before, audio. Or maybe I know Ava works on her school's podcast, so has had some experience before and has a great teacher leading her. So what we do is we meet with students and talk through story ideas. We give them tips for how to actually record and edit and kind of walk through their plan so that they feel ready to go out and record, ask the questions. We meet with them again. All this is mostly over Zoom since our producers are not in the cities oftentimes are not local to our students, and give them feedback, walk through next steps for how they can polish their pieces. But I feel like audio storytelling is a great entry point for students who have never done any kind of storytelling. You're just working with one medium. So it can be like Jay's experience, which I'm glad to hear Jay, was smooth and fun and easy. But it also can be more complicated if you want it to be. Like Ava really mixed in music and did the different layers. So it provides a great opportunity for students to work at whatever level they're at and learn things along the way.
Jay, how is your experience with Principal Wilson, both in terms of doing this interview and telling his story, but also your experience with him as a student? How has it shaped how you're thinking about your future plans and what you want to do longer term?
Yes, so just like hanging around Mr. Wilson or having him as my mentor is really shaping like what I want to become in the future because I want to sort of mirror what he's doing right now. The way he just is so kind to everyone, the way he's able to easily talk to students, he greets students in the morning is what I want to do. And specifically, I'm thinking of a career maybe based around law. And so I was just asking myself the question, in the career of law, how am I able to be like Mr. Wilson? And I really think that I want to be a mentor in the law field and I want to just be nice to everybody. I want to always be happy. Like Mr. Wilson said, a day goes wasted if you don't laugh even once. And I really think I want to continue that in the future.
We're talking to Jay Tamarisi. He's a sophomore from South Lake, Texas. Also with us, Bridget Gansky, the lead podcast producer at PBS News Student Reporting Labs. We're hearing from so many of you. One of you texts, "My dad inspired me growing up. With an 8th grade education, he joined the Marines and worked as an accountant for Chrysler Corporation for 32 years. He built a house and a cabin, put 4 kids through college, was firm but compassionate, the best listener, and an unshakable moral compass. He's still my role model 24 years after his passing." And another of you shares, "When I was growing up, I was inspired by the people I saw on television, superheroes and mystical creatures that overcame great hardships. Today, I'm inspired by my grandparents. They came to a new country knowing all the risks it takes to succeed in America and still came to ensure a bright future for their daughters." You can add your voice to the conversation. Email us, 1a@wamu.org. I'm Jenn White. You're listening to 1A. Bridget, right now the future of public media is uncertain. There are reports that the White House will soon ask Congress to cancel public broadcasting funding. Now, Student Reporting Labs has a mixture of funding from foundations and individual donors, so this program isn't necessarily on the chopping block, but it still exists through PBS. What do you think students and teachers lose without a program like this?
Yeah, for sure. I think, the work we do is really valuable. And I think the journalism world needs young people learning journalism skills, or the whole world needs, young people learning journalism skills. And I think we lose a lot. I think, we're helping young people become critical thinkers and learning media literacy skills. Obviously, I'm a real believer in the work that we do, and I think hopefully your listeners are as well. We've had a mix of funding from foundations and individual donors, including the Wellbeings Project from WIDA. Right now, we're really looking for funding in the youth mental health space. And of course, our listeners can support us we have a donate button on our website. So encourage everyone to go to studentreportinglabs.org.
Well, let's get to more of your stories. One of you shared this. Although she's long passed, my high school art teacher, Alice Mahoney. She helped me with life from age 15 until she died well into my 40s. She was so loved by me, her entire family attended my wedding in New York City. She listened carefully, thoughtfully replied. We laughed and cried together for many years. She remains the most influential person to me, and I am 64. And here's another of you who wanted to highlight a teacher as an inspirational figure.
In 8th grade, I had an English teacher named George Pasquale, and he taught me English using the Greek gods as a model. He tweaked his lessons based on something that interested me, and the lesson was absorbed much better. Every day in this guy's class, at least once a day, some young adult would show up from their lives to thank him for influencing them. They'd interrupt the class. So I became a teacher eventually because he inspired me so much. And whenever possible, I try to get into my students' heads and find out what they're interested in and try and tweak my lesson based on their interests.
Thanks for that message. Jay, how do you hope your fellow students hear this podcast episode about your principal and maybe think about him a little differently when he says hi in the hall next time?
So, I want my fellow students to really know how much effort Mr. Wilson puts into making sure students feel comfortable every single day. And I feel like that my experience with him, personally, him being there for me for over 6 years now, I think that really should resonate with not only myself, but for others. And I really want my fellow students, so like the next time they see in the hallway, just to give back the same energy. If Mr. Wilson's like, "Hi, how are you doing?" I want them to like also greet him back. I want them to also like know what's happening and just be kind.
Well, that's Jay Tamarisa. He's a sophomore from Southlake, Texas, and we'll hear more from Jay a little later. Bridget Gansky is the youth media producer and lead podcast producer at PBS News Student Reporting Labs. Bridget, thanks for speaking with us today.
Thank you so much.
Still to come, in the days when long-distance communication can be as easy as shooting off a text, we hear from a student who's maintained a years-long pen pal friendship the old-fashioned way, through the mail. And of course, we have more of your stories.
When I was 5 years old, I started training in Ishinru karate with a 4'11" woman from Ohio, Sensei Ren, I called her. And I trained with her for about 10 years. During that time, she became a Soto Zen priest and gave up all her material possessions. And for me as an adolescent boy, this was revolutionary. She taught me almost everything I know about respect, discipline, and how to prioritize the right things in life.
When I was in middle school, I had a math teacher named Miss Williams. She was wonderful. It was like the only math teacher I ever had that actually made it make sense. I went from failing grades to top tier A+ grades in that class. And she used 2 birds to help her with it. She used an African gray parrot named Zoe and a little blue lovebird that she let us pick the name for, and she picked the name Twitters. And I think she's passed from this world now, and she's a good one. That's all I have to say. She's a good one.
Thanks for those stories. You're listening to 1A from WAMU and NPR. Today, we're talking about people who make a lasting impression on our lives. For many, teachers are at the top of that list. One of you shared this. My mom was a drug addict, and we were poor as anyone could be. My first grade school teacher was the first adult who was nice to me and didn't hurt me. She gave me hope. I think of her every day. I didn't know nice people existed until I met her. From kindergarten through college, educators have a unique opportunity to bring new ideas into our lives and serve as mentors. Next week, we talk to John B. King Jr. about his new book. He's a former middle school teacher, school principal, college professor, and U.S. Secretary of Education. And we want to hear from you. Has a teacher made a lasting impact on your life? Tell us about it. Call us at 855-236-1A1A. How do they help you see the world and your place in it? Share your story. 855-236-1212. You can also leave a message with our app, 1A Vox Pop, and we'll hear more on Monday. Now back to our conversation about the people who inspire us. We're talking to teens who interviewed their role models for the newest season of the PBS News Student Reporting Labs podcast, On Our Minds. The show is about being a teenager, and it's being produced by teens across the country. Let's bring in another voice. Michelle Liu is a junior from McLean, Virginia, who interviewed her pen pal, Sue Miller. Michelle, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're also hearing from you about the inspirational people in your life. Here's Keith in Nevada.
I'm inspired by my wife of 43 years and counting. After following her father into medicine, she practiced pediatric medicine until she was sidelined by a chronic disease. When she was unable to do that, she actually rescued a yarn store where we live and ran a yarn store for 6 years. She never fails to model compassion and kindness on a daily basis. She inspires me every day.
Thanks for that message. Michelle, you met Sue when you were around 3 years old at church. You say she became like a grandma to you. How did that pen pal relationship begin?
We kind of started just when we both lived in Texas at the same place. She always came we always met at church, and we had a great relationship in that sense. And then we started writing letters to each other just for fun. But when I moved away when I was 9 years old, I continued that pen pal relationship with her through letters. And whenever I would travel anywhere, I would always pick up a postcard just so she would be updated on where I was and how I was doing. So through that, we kind of started our pen pal relationship, and it's kind of just lasted throughout the years.
So I know you were very young when you first met Sue. You were about 3 years old, as you said. But who chose who? Did you sort of claim Sue, or did Sue? Because this happens sometimes with young kids where they'll meet an older person. They'll just say, "Oh, yep, you're mine."
I think maybe it was a little bit mutual. My family, we love Sue and her husband Bill, so we've all family friends. And Sue's just always been there for us. She always comes to all my recitals. She always came to all my school performances. She was just always there for us, and even at church, she was always just so welcoming. So I really love that about her, and just continuing that pen pal friendship with her today. Even I'm just really grateful that I've met Sue and been able to keep in touch with her for so long.
So this is a 7-year friendship now. Why letters? I mean, a phone call is there. Sue may not text. Maybe she does. I don't know. But what is it about writing letters to her?
I think it just makes it more personal in the sense, and just being able to even pick out postcards or cards for that I chose especially for her for a specific reason, I think is special. And also just in such a digital world, I keep up in touch with a lot of my friends through social media and messages and texting. But with Sue, it's so nice to be able to just sit down and write a letter to her, in handwriting and such.
Well, let's listen to a clip from your conversation with Sue.
Do you have the letters I sent to you over the years?
Oh, yes. I have a box.
Okay, shall we read some?
Sure. Dear Sue, how has your day been going? I had a lot of fun fishing with Bill. We were very happy when I caught a medium fish for the first time. Next up, piano show. Michelle.
Dear Michelle, happy birthday! This cute hedgehog, this cute hedgehog or porcupine is loaded with a bouquet of flowers to help you celebrate being 12. If only we could ride on his back and surprise you for your birthday. We certainly cherish so many memories with you and our Texas life.
I'm glad to be reminded of that.
What was it like revisiting those letters and reading how your relationship has evolved over the years? Because you were very young when you first started writing.
It was super nice to be able to look back on and reflect on so many of our memories that we've shared, and to even just reread some of those. And I've written letters to her for so long, so it's such a nice refresher to be able to go back and be able to see how we've grown together and how our relationship has evolved together as well.
Well, we're hearing from so many of you. Russ emails, when my high school schedule didn't allow me to continue taking classes on acting, my teacher in that area also taught journalism, so I took that class and fell in love with it. I retired in 2017 after a career in journalism and public relations. Miss Barbara Bobbitt demanded professionalism in everything we did, and she recognized and encouraged that throughout my classes with her. And Janet emails, in the late 1960s, I was the only Black student in my nursing class. I went to the Catholic University of America, and there were very few Black people there at the time. I had an instructor, Ms. Norris, who supported me and encouraged me to do my best, and she helped through a very rigorous program, and I appreciate her. She was the best. What you've developed with Sue is a cross-generational friendship. What does it mean to have that kind of relationship with someone of a different generation?
It's been really nice to be able to learn more about how her childhood was and how she was in her upbringing. I think it's just been very informational and also just been very nice to learn about how she was like a teenage, she like in her teenage years, and how she also had that person in her life that was like a mentor and a guide to her that kind of influenced her to become such a caring person and being able to interact with the younger people and welcome people into like the church where we first met. So it just kind of influenced in how she is today.
What do you think you've learned from her?
I think I've learned from her that like distance doesn't have to be a barrier for connection. Even though we live so far away from each other, we still continue to stay in touch, and it's because of her kindness and how she continues to always be keep in touch with me, and how she's always so interested in what I'm doing, even if she's not there present, like physically with me. So I've been super grateful for that. I've learned so much from her.
In what way do you think this long distance relationship with Sue has made you maybe approach your peer friendships, relationships with people your age, maybe a little differently?
I think it was just to be more connected on a more personal level. Like Sue and I have such a unique relationship with each other, and I'm super grateful for that. And I kind of put all of like what I've learned from her and all of her kindness and what she does for other people into my peer friendships. I always try to be there for my friends and just support them in any way I can.
Well, let's listen to another clip of your interview with Sue. And in this clip, she reads you a poem.
What matters? 100 years from now, it will not matter what kind of car I drove, what kind of house I lived in, how much I had in my bank account, nor what my clothes looks like. But the world may be a little better because I was important in the life of a child. So I love that. I love that. And I think it's so true.
That's a wonderful poem.
I appreciate you choosing me. You inspire me.
Oh, thank you.
Unbelievably.
What is it like for you to hear Sue, someone who you love and admire, to say that actually you inspire her?
It was very nice of her to say that. I love Sue and everything that she does, and I'm so glad that we have such a great relationship, and I'm just super grateful for all of these years. Like she's been through almost like my whole entire childhood and even to now. So I'm just super grateful to always have her by my side.
Do you think you've taught her anything?
I don't know. Maybe. I hope she has, like, through all of my performances and violin and such, maybe she's learned a thing or two.
This conversation is making me think of a picture I have at home of my mom and my two best friends, their mothers. It's a picture of the four of us together. And these are women of a different generation who have been a part of my life for as long as I can remember, and how much I value those relationships and how important it is to me that I've had women like that in my life. But I think it's kind of uncommon for young people to develop that kind of intergenerational relationship. So what would you say to young people about why there's value in having a friendship with someone who has that experience and wisdom that comes with age?
I just think it's so important because they'll just always be there to guide you, even when you feel like, oh, this is such a hard barrier to overcome. They'll always be there and be like, it's gonna be okay. So I think that's kind of what Sue is there for me as well. And just always have someone that's older than you is just so nice to have, and just keep that personal touch going.
We're talking to Michelle Liu. She's a junior from McLean, Virginia. She interviewed her pen pal, Sue Miller. And we're still hearing from so many of you. Doris emails, my first grade teacher was a giant in my eyes. She inspired me to taste and see the beauty and creativity. I came back for a visit my first year of college. My giant stood the better part of 4'11", while I surprisingly towered over her. But in my eyes, I felt a sense of pride as I remembered hanging on to her words of wisdom. This beautiful confidence led me to self-publish, dabble in several creative outlets, and even use my voice to sing. I found out recently Ms. Lacey passed away, but she will never be forgotten. And Jerry emails, my junior high school football coach, Bo Brockman, transformed me from a shy, overweight young man into a confident, healthy individual who went on to teach leadership in high school for 3 decades. He taught me to push my limits beyond anything I had known. His most memorable quote, we can accomplish anything as a team as long as nobody cares who gets the credit. He changed my life. I'm Jenn White. You're listening to 1A. Now let's bring back in our other 2 student voices, Jay Tamarisa, a sophomore from South Lake, Texas, and Ava Gilberg Stroud, a senior from Black River Falls, Wisconsin, who interviewed her drummer dad. Jay interviewed his principal. And we're still hearing from more of you. Evelyn emails, my mother influenced me most. She always had an encouraging word. She never raised her voice, even when something I did upset her. She had a goal in mind for all of her many children and gently prompted us to seek success. And Jessica says, I will forever be inspired by my 5th grade teacher, Ms. Ellen Woodfin, at a time when I felt judged and stuck by standard teaching methods and expectations. She showed that creativity mattered and that outside of the box thinking and coloring outside the lines were a good thing. I'd love to hear from each of you what it means for you to have a source of inspiration, to have an adult in your life who you can say, you inspire me. Ava, I'll go to you first.
I think it's really, really, really important to latch on to someone that really, really inspires you or that you admire. And honestly, as a kid, that was my dad for me. And I think something everybody can relate to is the more I learn about my dad and his whole story, the more I realize that we're not very, very different. And I practically copied his personality and his lifestyle. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Jay, what about for you? How important is it to have someone who inspires you, someone you can look up to?
Having someone that you look up to really helps you push your own boundaries and really helps you become the better version of yourself. Before meeting someone so inspirational and someone that's touched many lives, I feel like maybe you aren't self confident, but after meeting them, after talking to them, you know the exact person who you want to be and the plan that you want to do to get there.
And what about for you?
I think it's just so important to be able to have someone that inspires you. Just it makes you a better person and helps you in your future to try and be that same person who's so kind to you in the first place.
Something that I think connects all of your stories is that you chose an adult who you think really sees you. Ava, in your case, it was your dad seeing your passion for music and really supporting that. Jay, for you, it was your principal seeing that you needed that connection, you needed that encouragement and reaching out to you. And for you, Michelle, it was Sue just seeing this 3-year-old who liked her and wanted to spend time with her and really making the effort to maintain that meaningful connection. It was someone who didn't just see you as a young person, they saw you as a person. And Ava, I mean, what would you say to people listening, adults listening right now, about how important that is as a young person, that we look at you and see not just a kid, not just a teenager, but a whole person?
I think the biggest takeaway any adult can take from becoming a role model to a young person is that it's really, really, really important. And even as I'm growing up, I turned 18 last month, and I'm already kind of seeing there's a lot of underclassmen in my school that I can tell they totally look up to me, but I don't totally understand why. And I think a lot of people that are way older than me can totally understand that even if you don't see what a young person sees in you, it's something that they think is really, really cool. And you should for sure just try and embody and find out what that is.
Well, that's Ava Gilberg Stroud. She's a senior from Black River Falls, Wisconsin. Also with us, Jay Tamarisa, a sophomore from South Lake, Texas, and Michelle Liu, a junior from McLean, Virginia. Michelle, Jay, Ava, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us. And we'll end on some of the stories we've gotten from you. Linda emails, a negative interaction with an educator can also have a positive outcome. I'm now 80 years old, and my high school counselor ridiculed me for wanting to become an engineer because I was a girl. I became a math teacher because that's what I was allowed to do. Many years later, I founded iSpace, a STEM learning center in Cincinnati that serves over 30,000 students each year. All students are encouraged to work toward their dreams, and no one is slamming the door on their aspirations. Another of you shared this. My heroes right now are people like Jenn White, Ira Flato, and others who help us understand the world around us. And we'll end on this from Valerie, who says, one person who inspired me a few years ago was NPR's Brian Mann. He was going back to Ukraine after being injured there before. I had recently been learning how to drive again and was honestly terrified about driving in the rain and even more the snow. And I just thought, if he can go back to Ukraine, I can drive in the rain. Thanks to all of you for sharing your stories and thoughts with us today. You can hear more stories and ones from other students' latest season of On Our Minds, a podcast from PBS News Student Reporting Labs. The new 8-episode season is released weekly on Wednesdays through June 4th. Today's producer was Michelle Harvin. This program comes to you from WAMU, part of American University in Washington, distributed by NPR. I'm Jenn White. Todd Zwillick is with you tomorrow for the News Roundup. Hope you tune in. Thanks for listening, and let's talk more soon. This is 1A.